I think you muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, I said we're it's like a makeshift over here, so bear with us.
Correct.
No worries, no worries. And, waiting for everyone else to show up. How are you guys doing?
Good, and yourself?
Doing all right. The world's a little crazy, but take it day by day. And
You guys get any snow there or
we got some this weekend, but very little. Maybe 2, 3 inches. So
same? You know,
Not bad for you.
honestly, not even 2 inches. I live in Marlboro, not even 2 inches.
wow.
But no one plowed. Nothing to it, just sand
Yeah,
and fine.
we actually got plowed, and we were not thrilled about that. It was like we don't need to plow, and you don't have to like destroy our driveway. It's okay. So
Well, they're starving though, right? I mean, we're in January, first time we even had a shot at it, so.
exactly. That was really disgusting. It's like we're, we're helping them make their way. And
Yes.
God, I don't know if I told you, like before I moved out here, my wife and I lived for a year in Marlboro. So
It's so funny.
Really?
Everybody has lived in. I feel like we go on so many calls.
But
And I go,
where-
I lived in Monroe. I lived in Monroe.
So believe it or not, Mike, you're speaking with a townie. So we're in Marlboro. Like I've been here for 57 years now.
wow.
Not that we're in Marlboro right now, but
What's the the fancy little inn that was
Wayside Inn?
yeah, the Wayside Inn. So if you go by the Wayside Inn and then you sort of it's like a diagonal, you hang a right and you go up
Sudbury
maybe
Street?
yes, Sudbury Street.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we're up maybe I don't know, like half a mile up Sudbury Street.
Yep. I know. Well, yep.
Yeah, we lived in Arlington for years, and then we had our first kid, and it was just when the market was starting to go crazy.
Yep.
So between
Yep.
Arlington and Marlboro, there was nothing we could afford. And my wife was teaching in Wayland, and so it worked out well at the time. And but we like
Did you rent there or did you own on Sudbury Street?
we bought. It was our first house.
Very
And,
nice.
yeah.
It's a nice area. I have to
It
say
is a
that. It's a
nice
really
area.
nice area.
But the unfortunate part, like we just sort of plopped down with a 1-year-old, it, it wasn't the way to sort of find out about the community. Hey, Nate.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
Good, good. I'm glad everyone could make it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Denise, we want to keep our guests on their toes, so we don't really do the link until the very last minute.
I was like, I'm not the greatest when it comes to electron. I'm like, I'm gonna get there, and I'm not gonna have an internet signal, and I'm not gonna. Oh boy, but it all worked out.
Yes.
It did. So we got 3 of us. It's waiting for one more person, Isaac, to show up. And Nate and Gail, I think Bert will be joining us. At least he emailed me earlier. So
Well,
we'll see if he
terrific.
makes- yeah. And once we get everybody, we'll do a round of introductions, and I'll start the meeting, and then we'll go from there. But Gail, how you doing?
Okie doke. Thank
Good.
you.
Glad to hear it.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
You sound surprised.
Uh yeah, it's full days
Yeah,
between town stuff and work stuff. It's like a lot.
yeah.
So here's Isaac.
Do you work locally, Mike, or you travel too?
I actually work out of my house. I do consulting, so it's been convenient. I used to drive to Springfield, which is about an hour, but starting with the pandemic, I left that job and I've been consulting, so it's sort of convenient. And
Super convenient. Other than kids, right?
yeah, no kids. And Shutesbury has municipally owned fiber, which we got the year before the pandemic, so it was perfect timing.
Right.
Wow.
Took us
Awesome.
forever to get, but we have really good service, which is great.
No, that's great news. Seriously.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
There's
we
Isaac.
are, yeah, we're here. So we are, I'll start the meeting at 5:03. And I think, Nate, are you up for minutes?
I can do minutes.
Because Gail, you did it last time, right?
No, I'm up for minutes, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Isaac, you're up for minutes. Cool. Love it. Wonderful. Okay, so and Bert is here. Two of Bert, apparently. Let's see. So Bert is a prospective member, so I'm just going to welcome him, and then we can just sort of jump in. And,
I just do that so I can see the other stuff because I don't know the screen.
Oh, let me see.
Are you okay? Or do you want me to go back? Can I go down?
Yeah, in case you needed it, I didn't know. Yeah.
Because otherwise I can't get. All right.
Bert, are you with us? Here we go. Bert, you can hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can't see you, but we can hear you, which is good. That's half of the battle. So,
Just for note-taking purposes, the people under Denise Allard, just to put in the notes for public attendees.
I was going to do a round
great.
in introductions, and you will get it in a second, Isaac. So,
Thanks.
Bert, welcome. Glad you could finally make it to our meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so
Sorry it took
we
so
have
long.
two guests that are going to speak to the first topic. So I thought we'd just do a round of introductions before we get into public comment. But I think everyone knows me, but I am Michael De Chiara. I'm the chair of the Energy and Climate Action Committee. And Nate, why don't you do it and then tap somebody?
Sure, I'm Nate Hurd, and I am a member of the Shutesbury's ECAC, and I've been on a point person for municipal aggregation of late. So, and I'll tag Gail.
Hi, I'm Gail Flyshaker, and I'm one of the original members of this committee, and that's it. Isaac, you're tapped.
Yeah, Isaac Goldstein, current member of ECAC, and currently point person on EV charging and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. And Bert, we can go into more detail, but why don't you just briefly introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are?
Yeah, I'm a resident of Shutesbury for 3 years and just saw a notification in the newsletter about this meeting, and so
Great.
I'm
And I
curious and
think,
interested.
yeah, after we do the presentation with Colonial, we'll probably loop back and we can talk more about, your interests and stuff. And so you guys want to introduce yourselves, and then, well, I got to take a moment for public comment, but there's no real public. So, but if you introduce yourself, that would be great.
Mark Capito, the Colonial Power.
Denise Allard, also Colonial Power. Do you want him to spell his last name?
please and thank you.
It's CAPPADONA.
Okay.
Capadona.
Cappadona, thank you.
I'm sure it gets misspelled all the time, speaking from someone
All
who
the
knows.
time. I
Yeah.
called many other things as well,
And he's
Michael.
usually, he's usually Mike. He usually gets Mike.
So I will open it up for public comment. And seeing none, we can move into the community choice conversation. So hopefully everyone saw the draft plan that Nate circulated from Colonial. And I think if it makes sense, I'll sort of hand this over to Nate and Mark and Denise, but I'm assuming like we would go through it. I don't know if you wanted to present a little bit about it and then we could ask questions or comments. Is that normally the best way to go for feedback?
So Nate shared your comments written, so I'm happy to run through those, or we can just go through the plan. It doesn't make any difference to us. I just want you to know we're well aware of this. This is truly a regulatory document. It's really not a document for the general public, and it's unfortunate, but this is the new world order, I'll say, under the Department of Public Utility. The good news is, with this plan, you should have an order once filed within 120 days, which is light speed at the Department of Public
Yeah.
Utility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll just jump in and then maybe you could just maybe Mark, since you have my comments, you could just sort of respond to them throughout, but I think one of the things that I responded, I think I just sent it to you, Nate. I don't think I sent it to everybody. Um, but one of the high level issues that I brought up with Mark and Denise was, and I get that this is like handed down from the state, but I'm sort of thinking about like how it plays in the community level. So this is called a plan, and there's sort of placeholders. And so since you all know that we live in Shutesbury, if we say it's a plan, but it doesn't reflect what people were expecting, people are going to sort of say, hey, how did you get to that? So part of what I was hoping we could sort of figure out is if it has to be a called or plan, how we present it, if there is a way of sort of calling it something that was different than a plan, so it felt more tentative or something. But I think that was one of my concerns because we've made progress so far, I think, in sort of presenting this and getting people to understand it. But who wants to step into the middle of a controversy that you don't have to, that's self-inflicted? So I think that was, but why don't you guys walk through it if that makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
And does everyone have a copy? Do you want me to share the screen with it? Would that be helpful?
I mean, I think initially, at least, just as we go into it, right? And we fully understand what you're saying, Michael. Like when we were in the room for the working groups, we had the same concern. This is, we do this every day and we're looking at this and we had trouble with the template, right? We were like, this is not helpful to, yeah, the DPU can easily look at this and stamp and approve it, but the average person in a town is not going to understand this. Just a couple of things as we go into it, right? And I think we talked about this with the committee before. From Colonial standpoint, we like to keep as general as possible and as flexible as possible, just so you don't have the state kind of regulating any town decisions. So although you may have made some decisions regarding products, et cetera, no need to put that in front of the state and have the state lock you into a particular decision based on what's available today versus what may be available down the line. So we truly believe in flexibility and keeping it as general as possible, getting the town approved for kind of everything. And then that way you don't have to ever reapply.
And I'll give you a perfect example. So it was just approved in July. We have a low-income community solar program that if you didn't have it in your plan or it wasn't flexible enough, your plan, they made you go back and refile. Now with the 2367, you do not have to do that, but it's just something to keep in mind. And I'm saying to you, I truly believe the department heard the state loud and clear, meaning we need flexibility. We have every right to do this. And they're stepping back from the shackles they had on that. But I just want to keep that in mind when we're going through this plan. I'm happy to make changes. And again, this is the town plan. We're here to do whatever you want for a plan. Just know that if you step too far out of this, we don't know where you end up, meaning it shouldn't be more than 6 months, but you're certainly not going to get it in 4 months.
Right.
They've made it clear to us, we're happy to take any plan and we could go back to our old plan, but it may take longer than that because they don't have to do anything here. And when they don't have to do anything, they can rubber stamp.
They were comfortable with all the TBDs, et cetera, because then they say on the website, you can just keep up ongoing program information can be updated as it's fluid, right? As things change, the website is kind of the Bible of where everything is and the documents, et cetera. And then, the department's just going to kind of stamp approve this and then all the details show up on the website and in the documents, et cetera. So.
Cool. Gail, you had a question?
I would think that we'd have an advantage being able to present it that way to the town. So if we present this with the flexibility you speak of, to get approval at the DPU level, that still leaves us with that flexibility, what the town people want to see in their particulars. So to me, that's a selling point, not a constraint, if we pitch it that way.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, it's the label, like, so one of the, maybe you can just at the outset, can you just speak a little bit between the plan, which this thing is, which is really a template, and then the products?
And I don't know, I have to say, we might be able to say, I kid you not, I like the term because I consider this to be more of a template than a plan. But if we said the municipal aggregation template, does it put us off track. See, it's uncharted territory, Mike, with the department. So,
Right.
because I think it's more descriptive.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
accurate.
we said exactly the same thing. We're like, this is not a plan, but they just were like hell bent on kind of what they wanted
You
for a
could put,
template, so.
maybe they'll accept it if we put it in quotation marks for plan. They won't get too freaked out. And, but
mean, we
if
could
you
try.
could, if you can just speak to the difference between a plan and the products, because I think that
Yeah.
would be helpful for the committee to
Yeah.
sort of, before you
So-
jump in.
You or me?
You can go.
Okay, so the think of it this way: the products. Yes, exactly. I just want you to think of it this way: the products are what you're going to be offering customers. A meats product, meaning the product is meets RPS. You need to meet certain requirements to serve a retail load in Massachusetts. So that might be your, the most economical. It would be the most economical product. And then you might have something that has solar recs. You might have something that has national wind recs. You might have something that has mass class 1 recs. You might have something that has nuclear recs. All of these things are available in the marketplace. Those are the products that some aggregators put in their plan. We say do not put in your plan because those are town decisions. We want you to be able to say, this is our product in this one, and we want to change our product to a cold fusion because it became a thing. And now all of a sudden we don't have to go back to the department for the 120 days. We have full flexibility. We choose the products here at the town level. Difference between the plan itself, Mike, is the whole thing, meaning, okay, we're sending opt-out notices, there's a mailing, the website, that is the plan itself. Everything else that's there, maybe a low-income community solar program.
Right. I would think of the plan as like what you have to do to meet the statutory requirements, right? That, what you have to do with the utility, how many days you have to put on the opt-out. And I noticed you mentioned greater period for opt-out notice. You can certainly do that, but only get approved for the minimum 30 so that you're not tied into longer. But you can certainly do whatever you want. If you want a longer opt-out period, fine. You want to post the plan for longer than 30 days, that's fine. But the statutory requirements, they just want to make sure you've met that, and then the programs sit with it. This is just the Bible, say, and then the plan is the program.
Yes, exactly. No, and I don't want to get into, if we're going to go through it. The
Yeah,
reason
why
I
don't you go
say
through it?
okay, let's go through it because there's some things in there. I think there's just some misunderstandings, and once we explain, you're going to go, okay, this makes sense.
We fully understand why we are not fans of this, but
Yeah, you don't have
We
to
are stuck
defend the
with it.
state. It's fine.
We'll just start with the introduction, and I know you have a comment on the 1,700 consumers. So, and I don't know why the department wanted the consumers and not households, but you can look at this in not identically, but I bet there's somewhere in the range between 500 and 600 households in Shutesbury. And the reason I'm saying that is it's normally on average across the state 3 to 1. The department knows that. Everyone in the business knows that. So that's why they just always wanted to know how many people were in the town, so that they know how many consumers are leaving a basic service, if you will.
Okay. So,
But we can change this.
yeah, well, I'll leave it. I'm curious what other people think. I mean, there's always this sense of, Boston doesn't get small rural towns in Western Mass. And so you want to sort of from the get-go say, this is, they're speaking to Shutesbury. And so when I think about 1,700 people, I think, well, there's 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds that are in the 1,700 number. They're not really consumers. They're coming along for the ride. So as long as we're able to articulate that and, on the very front end say, this is the word that the state's asking for, but it's really the population, then we're good. So if it's statutorily required, we can do it. I just wanted to make sure that
It's not statutorily required that it's households. I'm just saying this would be we've done 99 of these, Michael, and we've always put the population in. So meaning, but it's just language. If you wanted to change that to households, we certainly could. I think to the department, I know this is going to sound bad, they're going to say, wow, this is a very small town, because they're not going to read households.
I would just, instead of doing the household, to keep the number and just maybe put, parenthetically after consumers, individuals or population or something like that.
Okay.
So we get that it's the town population.
No problem.
That's fine.
Yep.
We'll put it in parentheses.
Yep. So and I don't want to pass this by, but the definitions, you want to go through any of the definitions, Mike? Any
Oh.
problems with anything you saw there?
I didn't. Did anyone else have questions about the definitions?
Because unless it's self-explanatory, I want to make sure everyone understands that, because uni-ag language is not language. It's not everyday language.
And I gotta be honest, a lot of these definitions, when it comes to the the educational materials, we're not necessarily gonna use that, auto enroll customers, we think is a bit clumsy, and it's not. You will be automatically enrolled if you're on basic service, but you're gonna get a notification. It's not like you're just gonna be swept. So when we get to the education materials, we try to make it a little more friendly. But this is the terms that they settled on when we were in the working group, so.
Cool. It seems like we're good with definitions.
Okay. So procedural requirements, I'm just trying to look at your doc at the same time, page 2. Give me 1 second here. 17, and page 5 is the next time you have a question. So on page 4, just the first part is just the requirements. And I'm talking about when you were at town meeting, when the select board voted on the plan, those kind of perfunctory things that you have to check the box on each one of them. Otherwise, you don't meet the statutory requirements of excuse me, not 2367, but 164, 134.
Yeah, so we have the town meeting date in there. We have the DOER consult in there. We will fill in the posted dates before we file with department. It's just,
Okay.
we don't know what they are yet. It's fine to leave them blank for the posting, but we will be certain to fill that in because we need to do that in order to get the approval. So before it gets
Okay.
filed, we will fill in C under 3.
Okay, yeah, and town meeting date is under debate. It's either the end of April or May 10th, one of the two. The select board is yet to, I think, finalize.
Oh, it's
unless,
not
Gail,
June? It isn't
No.
June 3rd?
No, Gail, did you have an update? Did they
Well,
decide?
just that they're still even talking about moving it into June.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But this is, you already approved in June. This is when you were
Oh,
authorized.
Yeah, a year and a half
okay.
ago.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about this town meeting.
Oh, no.
You're good. You're all set on
Okay.
that front here. at
You don't
least.
have to revote it, Mike. You do not have to do that.
Okay.
So, plan elements, kind of the organizational structure, the first, I like it, the first table, if you will. So what they're asking here is who's going to be doing what, so that the Department of Public Utilities can look quickly if they ever had a question. Who's doing what as far as representatives, and who's the entity performing these things? So the agent before the department, again, it's a town plan, so we have to click off the town, and we're the consultants, so we're, according to our contract, we're your agent in front of the department. Both of them get checked off. The DOER is a little bit different. We're your agent. We reach out to them. We have the as we already have. We have that meeting, set it up, do what we had to do, and move on.
And we thank you for that.
You're more than welcome. The distribution company, again, a lot of things, and I mean a tremendous amount of things behind the scenes that we do as the agent, making sure that we get the load data, making sure that the load data is correct, make sure all the mailing addresses, make sure the supplier has all the forms to fill out, all of that. So we're your agent, and if the utility, National Grid, had any questions, they call us. They know us very well from doing this. So the plan elements, and I'm just going to run through them quick. The procurement of supply. Our job is to make sure that you see everything that you want to see in the marketplace. Create a product if it's necessary, do whatever it is. That's our job. Your job is to make sure that we're doing that. We don't make any decisions. I just want you to know this. Town program, we're the worker. You tell us what to dig and where to dig, and we dig it. And then you guys just make decisions. It's really that simple across the board. So product determination. Again, that's a town decision. You're gonna decide what that is. Other funding and cost, that's up to you. If you guys wanted to take a mill, you could certainly do so. Any of those things are always your call. The customer enrollment, that's the supplier. Cut and dry, it's through EDI or electronic data interfacing. Literally, it's all electronic now, which is much better than it was years ago. The consumer notification, Denise creates all of this, sends it to you for your okay. As soon as it's okayed, we then take it off over to the supplier and get their printer to get it all printed and sent out. What I want you to know about this one here is I wish there was more flexibility in the language. They really want to make sure that things are standardized. So there is more flexibility today than there ever has been, but it's still not fantastic. This letter, we're happy to work with you, but there's certain language in there in a table in there that has to be. It just has to be. The good news is I think it's straight away, meaning it's your product up against basic service, so everyone knows.
Yeah, there's certain elements that have to go on the table, and then there's certain items that have to be like explained, like solar and low income and taxable. That all has to be hit in the letter. And what we have in there is previously approved wording by the department. So we've been just going with it because they don't have an issue with it. So
Yeah, you good? You have another question?
Yeah, I'm wondering, since most of the town is National Grid, but as I understand it, we do have some in, what you call it?
Wamiko or Eversource West?
Yeah.
just one street or something. One
Do you
street
determine
maybe?
that, or are we supposed to supply you with that information?
We'll reach out to Eversource, Denise McGaldy, and ask the question.
Okay,
They didn't give us any inkling that there was. It happens in a lot of communities though,
It's
but
not
now
bad.
that we have the heads up, we'll make sure that we grab those customers.
okay, good, thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate the heads up. So ongoing program information, that's both. And the reason that's both, you're gonna have a website and we're gonna have a website, meaning the department requires you to have a link on your website. You don't have to update it the way we do, but as long as you have that link, and I don't know if you ever wanted to check out exactly what yours is, or yours is gonna look eerily similar to, take a look at colonialpowergroup.com and then choose any one of our communities. Your community will have a bunch of identical information, just your own rates and products.
Yeah, and this says like there was a significant change here just with the new guidelines, not in terms of the product information, but there's a lot of ongoing template information that needs to be uploaded to the website with constantly update. So we've updated the website, the web pages to include all the recent new requirements. So
That's easy to do.
yeah.
So program termination, that's just you. We cannot terminate this as a town program. So that's why that's where they're in. The annual reports, we are going to create them, make sure they meet all the statutory requirements. We're going to give them to you, but we will do that work. You'll certainly get a copy of them, but we'll file them, make sure everything's there. There's also an electronic data file that needs to get to the DOER. So that will also be created by us and delivered. Unfortunately, we're happy to show it to you. It's a bunch of gibberish so that everyone is consistent across the board. It's not easy to read the file, but again, I'm happy to deliver the file, but all of that information you're going to know because it's specific to Shutesbury's aggregation. Customer service. So on this one here, both the supplier and Colonial are going to take the lion's share, but we put an X for the town. Just let me explain. No one can prove that this is a town program but the town. And we've found, especially in the Western, lots of people, I believe the third-party suppliers have brought this on themselves. People won't believe this is a town program, so they'll call town hall during those 2 weeks to say, is this actually legitimate? So that's why we have this checked off for you.
Yeah, and we also, I think you saw at the end, and we can get to that, we have to provide a town contact, primary town contact that's a town official for filing with the DPU. They'll be on the service list when we file, as well as that's part of the new guidelines. You have to put a contact for the town should anyone want. It's not good enough that you just reach out to the town generally. They want the name, and it's typically the town manager, the town administrator, the town coordinator, just a town official. So certainly it could be a select. Yeah, well, yeah. So, but we would have to, when we file, we have to include the town administrator on the service list because it's docketed with the DPU. So that would have to happen.
Yeah.
Where are you in the document? I lost you after the
Oh,
ongoing
Top of
program.
page 5.
Top of page 5 of the table. We just finished that, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay, I was ahead of the game here.
And
Yeah,
here
this
is
is
what,
all the stuff.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Yep, so the next section here is all the statutory. We have to have universal access. Everyone has to have access. If they live in Shutesbury, they get to join. We can't hold them out for any reason. That's perfectly fine. They may get a different price if they're a large user. The reliability, this is something I want to make sure that I'm clear on. So reliability used to be a holdover from way back when. It had more to do with National Grid and reliability, maybe a little bit of Wamiko in Shutesbury. It now means you're not going to go back to basic service. Their biggest concern of letting us run, if you will, kind of stretch our legs, is they don't want a bunch of aggregations flipping back from basic service to competitive supply and competitive supply back to basic service. And the reason for that is it creates risk migration on basic service, therefore jacking up basic service pricing. So reliability means something very different today. So if and when we get there, I just want to make sure that everyone understands they actually went so far as to say, okay, if you get a power supply up, and for whatever reason, and I kid you not, whatever reason, like you say, we're not going to go forth, or the town decided that you're not going to go forth with the next contract. At that point, we notify the utility, we notify the department, you're out of aggregation for 2 years, and then you need to resubmit, and then we have to prove to them why we decided to suspend / terminate the program. Whether or not we get the approval in that one there, they were a little sketchy on it. I just want you to know. So just don't take reliability lightly. I kid you not. That one there was I said to them, I said, you're taking away a choice in the marketplace, and that's not a good position for the department to be at. And I think we started to win them over.
It used to be allowed, and this, think about it, the statute hasn't changed, and it used to be allowed, you could suspend your program. But they don't, they're not keen on that, so. And then I just
Nate?
think we want to mention the large commercial and
Yep.
industrial. I know you had a note about that. That's
Yeah.
more a reference to utility rate classes.
Correct.
Right? So both Eversource and National Grid, there's a large industrial rate, and that means something to the department in terms of
How we can treat them. And
Yeah.
I just want to explain one other. So let's just call it 3 classes, right? You have residential, you have commercial, then you have industrial. By industrial, we just mean large users over 1 million kilowatt hours and say over 150 kW, on the big draw. So from as far as you're concerned, most aggregations are really residential and small commercial. That's really what an aggregation is about, bringing that power to the market. Large industrial users, probably the town of Shutesbury, goes out on their own and gets has a contract, right? You guys do those kind of things. There's a marketplace for you. The small commercial and residential don't. But equitable across the class means if you so desired, you could say residential has this rate, small commercial has this rate, or commercial has this rate, and industrial has this rate. So you're allowed to be equitable, but you have to be equitable across the class. I can't say that your customer class are ones on the north side of Shutesbury has one rate, and on the south side it has another rate. It has to be equitable. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I only highlighted it. I mean, it's easy enough to keep it in there. Just we don't have any industry. I think the only thing that's technically industry is our solar installation because it was zoned as light industry. But we have no one using industry, and we have very few actual commercial. So,
and I kid you not, really across the state, because even when you have a large, the city of Marlborough, tons and tons of commercial and industrial, but they're all out in third-party contracts. So they're not really participating in aggregation.
Nate,
So-
did you have a question?
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to pick it up a little bit later because it comes up later, but my only comment on the entire document related to this issue around termination and having to revert back to basic service for 2 years before you could reapply for a municipal aggregation under different terms. And it turns out that if you want to alter your plan, that is a different path that is open to us. And that termination is, it doesn't mean that you can't change your plan or go down a different path, there are modification provisions that will be available to us in the future, and our paths are not like foreclosed because of that language. So I just wanted to mention that was the one question I had for this entire document, and I was like reassured that we actually have.
The one thing I want to state is, once you start taking power supply, we want to keep power supply flowing. That's when they're going to say, hey, you're playing games. When actually, in my own opinion, you should be able to back and forth. The city of Boston, maybe not, right? That's a huge load to return. Shutesbury, Marlboro, in the whole scheme of things, not very big.
But if you want to change the operational
Yes.
structure, right, what the consultant does, what the town does, what, you know, how
Yes.
it's operated, that you can do an amended plan, hang it, just submit it for information. That's updating ongoing program information. That's what that falls under. So you can certainly do that. I mean, you know, that would be like, from a really minor scale, like if the town just has a board of selectmen and doesn't have a town administrator, and then there's a town administrator, whereas the select board chair was making decisions, but now the town you know, that's a minor one, but operationally, all that's covered there. So you would just revise.
And it sounds like from what I got from Nate is that if we were not happy with stuff, the path is modification. So you don't want
Yes.
to go to.
Yeah,
Okay.
you want to keep, like Mark said, you want to keep power supply going. Once you terminate power supply, you know, and so if you want to change something for your next contract, you just think about that ahead before you go to your next contract. You go to your next power supply contract with a different operational structure.
And does changing power supply mean changing products, or is it still like if you had 3 products and all of a sudden you have 4, or you had 4 and then you went to 3, you're still not going back to National Grid. So it seems like that's the thing that they're trying to avoid.
That's exactly bingo. You can change all of that, Michael, but going back to turning all 500 meters back to National Grid, no.
Right. And if you have stated products and then you deviate from those products from one supply contract to a next, what you're technically required to do is prepare a new plan, post it for the 30 days, then submit it to the DPU and put it up on the website. That's why we're kind of saying keep it flexible. It allows you to change your products as needed, as long as we're keeping the website updated, but we're not the regulatory document. You're not letting the state make, you know, stamp approve those decisions for you. You're making those decisions at the town level. So.
Yeah. Hey, before you go on, hey, Isaac, you don't have to get all this detail, just so you know. I don't know.
Oh.
You look like you're like concentrating.
Yeah,
really hard.
I'm working on trying to get all this stuff down,
No,
but yeah.
I think it's sufficient to sort of say that we reviewed the plan and we had some questions or something, and maybe the high points, but this is way too much detail. You don't have to capture it.
Okay, thanks.
So sorry, you guys. Are
So
we
we're
on
gonna- oh,
where are we?
so we're at the top of page 6 on the next, I'll call table. That's the tables. And this is nothing more than the town, full flexibility, procurement, rate setting, what your sources and costs, customer enrollment, customer notification, ongoing all of that is in your purview, and we have full control over it. That's all we're telling the department on this. Nothing, full flexibility. Many of the other aggregators don't do this. This is important because it tells the department you're in charge of your complete plan, the whole enchilada. Procurement of supply is next. And so there's a bunch of steps in here, and I'm sorry to get so detailed, but you want to run through it, so I'm going to go quickly. So there's a whole bunch, and I'll let Denise actually take this one only because she does all the notifications. But when we issue an RFP on your behalf, so at some point here in the near future, we'll get the plan out there, we'll get it hung, we'll get an order out. We're going to go out to RFP for you just to show you the market. We do it very different than other aggregators. We do something called indicative pricing. And in doing that, we let you see the whole marketplace. But what the department wants to know is this table is all about letting the wholesale supplier at the distribution company or the National Grid know that you're now looking in the marketplace and you may be leaving. So that your load is now that, hey, wake up, this may be, these 500 meters and all of that load may be leaving. So that there isn't, it isn't a surprise to the wholesaler. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So the actual steps,
Yeah, so once we get an order, we have to, it's really ironic because the utility is on the service list, so they know the town got an order. But once you get an order, we need to serve that notice on the utility within 2 to 4 days. And then within 14 days, we need to update this table on a single size piece of paper and submit it to the department and let them know when we plan to go out to RFP, when we plan to evaluate pricing. And if it's all TBD at that time, you file it with the TBD. And then monthly updates after that until you sign a contract. And then once we file that with the department, then that filing notice gets forwarded to the utility. So the utility knows, to Mark's point, they know if you're looking out in the market and you might be coming out of basic service. So it's a lot of just table updates and filing that we didn't have to do before, but they just want to make sure the utility knows what's going on. Think of it as like a lot of towns have aggregated, right? There's like 190 aggregations, but think about the remaining basic service load that's left, especially like not National Grid, it's dwindling too, but like even think about Eversource West, even a smaller town gets pulled out of that now. And it makes a difference on basic service because the utility loads are so much smaller now
Correct.
than they were before all the aggregation took hold.
and I just want you to know, many other, not beating up other aggregators, but from my perspective, I fought for this, but I lost the battle. Just because you get an order does not mean that you're going out to the marketplace. So Colonial has had, until the pandemic, and they had a huge shock, which you guys have all been through, the 33 cents. We had the city of Newburyport. They had an order in 2015. They weren't ready. We talked to them all the time, periodically, let them know what pricing was, so forth and so on. For whatever reason, they weren't interested, whether it's the mayor, the energy committee, new city council. We don't feel they're kind of pushing the envelope, meaning protecting basic service. They're saying, hey, listen, we want you checking the market. And this is the other thing they've done, which I'm completely against. They're saying, hey, if you don't get out in the market in 2 years, we got to go back through and just notify them. They haven't put any rules around it. I think it's wrong because given market conditions, I'm making this up, but if basic service is at 3 cents a kilowatt hour, we're not doing an aggregation. We're going to take the basic service price for right now. I'm not saying that we won't get one going soon, but it just doesn't make sense. And it's 6-month windows. So after 3 terms, we're in trouble. So I just want you to know this. This is another little, it's a snafu, I think, that's in today. But we had to meet the department. They were more concerned about basic service than they were the savvy people on basic service.
Yeah,
There's customers left behind, I guess.
We had 3 or 4 communities in southeastern Massachusetts who were on National Grid that got orders in 2017 that the pricing wasn't favorable when we went out for aggregation, and they sat for 3 years until March of 2020 when the numbers were super low, right? And we took them out to bid in March of 2020 and they got low 10 cent, high 9 numbers, and they signed for 3 years and they launched with a big bang, but they had 3 years to sit there until the market was in their favor, and that wouldn't be allowed under the new guidelines, unfortunately, but they were really happy. They were happy about it.
Oh, no, well, because it was, I don't want to say anything. It was a local decision. We're not moving right now. We want to, and as far as I'm concerned, that's whether this group wants to move, it's up to you, not us. You know what I mean? Our job is to make sure that you're ready. You understand this is indicative. This is where prices is, where they are, excuse me. And these are the products that you wanted to see. If you're not ready to go, the pricing isn't good enough, we don't go. It's pretty simple. The next table on page 7 of the 17, this is where it's a very interesting thing. And I just want you to know, you get to choose whether you're municipal services. Our fee is the consultant services at 0.001. And then the renewable content, if you decided to, they want us to have that filled in, on an annual basis. This one here bothered me a little bit because I believe it's none of their concern. What you decide to do is your decision. This is them just Big Brother watching. They don't put any constraints. I want to state that there are no constraints, but the problem is they're going to be able to watch this, and this information is going to go to the Department of Energy Resources. So just so that you're aware, and I'll just run through them quick what they are. Renewable content, what that is. Consultant services, that's us. Municipal, let's just say you said, oh, I want to see if we can hire an energy manager with 3 other towns in the area, something of that nature. you guys all took a mill or 2 mills, you certainly have the right to do so and hire an energy manager and have them do what they need to do. The department wants to see this on an annual basis, just so you're aware. And then any other services you might, the DOER is big on that direct investment. I don't know if you remember, Nate, they're saying, hey, you can put something else on to build a solar array or do something other. That's the other services they were talking about, direct investment. So anything, this is the RPS, the class 1 extra rex national wind. Say you had a nuclear product, whatever that cost was, that would go in there. Say it was an extra 3 mils for a national wind, a class 1 that was an extra 5 mils. We'd put that in there and we'd fill it in. Supplier name, and then
Mark,
the
can I
date.
interrupt for a sec? I want to stop here, but also just time-wise, I want to frame it. I'm thinking if somewhere around 6, a little after 6, we maybe wrap up, just because there's other stuff we want to do, and I don't want to go
Sure.
too much beyond 6:30 with everybody for other stuff. But the question I have here is with the voluntary.
Mhm.
Is it possible just to do RPS class 1 and other? Because
Yep.
No,
what ends up
They need
happening.
they need it broken out. They want it broken out. We're actually gonna have to put like an insert when we do the mailing to show what's required, what's voluntary, and what's mass class 1 or other.
Okay, because the issue, I mean, this is the place where it seemed like we're starting to project what the products would be. And
Not
so,
us. This
What?
is TBD.
yeah,
Not
well,
us.
it's TBD in the right-hand column, but in terms of what's listed. So the fact that we don't have, say, for
Yeah, it's
example,
not gonna be that's not what you're gonna pick for a product. That's what we have to report to the department. So it's
Oh.
not necessarily what you're gonna pick. It's just they want this reported and out with ongoing program information. They want everybody to see the breakout. They don't want you to just say,
But I get what he's saying. He's saying it looks as though we're choosing class 1s.
they
and
want it
national wind.
broken out by class 1 or other.
Yeah.
So if you have class 2, it's gonna go in other. We're gonna have to spell it out. If it's nuclear,
Correct, but but you're saying these are I didn't
these are
realize that.
standard, right? They
Gotcha.
don't want somebody with 100% national wind saying it's 100% renewable and implying that it's a class 1 rack. They want to make sure everybody who has a class 1 product knows it's a class 1, and if it's the percentage is part of the required or the voluntary part, right? Above RPS is voluntary.
okay, so these really are just large reporting categories back to the state, and
Right. And
nothing
it has to
about.
go on the annual report like that, and it's got to go on the mailer like that. And
Mike, there's a lot, I want to make sure I'm clear. There's a lot of people that they really wave the mass class 1 flag, and this is the gold standard and what you have to do. There's a whole organization out there, whether or not you're part of it, that's perfectly fine with us. My point, I don't think this needs to be, the department wants to know it so that they can wave their own flag. Look what our aggregations are doing. But for me, that's really a town decision. I didn't realize this is standard language because they want to know the mass class
right,
1
this
piece.
is new with the guidelines. They
Gotcha.
want it
Okay.
broken out by required and voluntary and class 1 and other, or when would be 0. Or I tried to, and I've been successful in getting it approved. I eliminated the class 1 on the insert that we prepared, and I think it was part of the consumer notification. You would have seen the little insert that would go in the mailer. I just have required and voluntary, class 1 and other, so you don't have to specify wind.
Isaac, you had a question?
Yeah, just two hopefully quick questions. One was, you'd alluded to like, being some, not like some towns being in the market for 3 years. That's not a thing anymore. And I think you may have addressed this, but I kind of, it skipped my mind. Like how long are we out at market? Is it like 3 months, 6 months, and then
So you get 24 months
24 months? You get.
today. 24 months, you have like a free pass. After 24 months, we got to start worrying about it. Now, normally, I kid you not, there'll be an opportunity in the marketplace within 24 months. I've never seen there not be, but you get to decide, hey, this is a big enough spread between our aggregation price and the basic service price to get this rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then in the reliability column, if we wished to remain in CCA, but we wanted to like maybe attach on to another aggregate program where there's like 3 other towns and we want to be the 4th town on that. That's a continuation of service. So
Yeah.
we're still good with that.
you're still good with that because you're taking power supply from, not basic service. You didn't, the only, where you go afoul, you return customers to basic service.
Right.
All of the customers.
Understood.
As long as you're staying, you're out in the third, 7 towns, 1 town, 2 towns, you're fine.
So changing in the third party market is fine, but the
Correct.
back and forth between basic service and
That is exactly
External,
correct.
got
That's the foul right there.
Right. We would always recommend that a town file its own plan and get its own approval, even if it wants to link up with other towns, right? Because you should always, even if you're going to go together, you should really think about making your own product selections within that contract with the same supplier in the same term, because otherwise, if you're just getting one rate for a bunch of towns and you're not picking your own products, there's subsidies, right? Someone's going to subsidize someone else, right? We had the larger Franklin County aggregation, and when they were coming up and running, they said, oh, we all want to, we said, we'll show you the pricing, but I can tell you that Deerfield's going to be getting a better rate, a little town is going to be subsidizing a bigger town in Franklin County. That's the way that works, right? It's everyone's got to pay for it. It's just got to go somewhere. So
right.
you should get the
Spreads it out,
benefit.
yeah.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Mike, to your point, and I apologize, my eyes are of a certain age. I can't.
550.
550. I don't want to waste everyone's time just running
Yeah.
through the doc. I'm happy to come back to the next energy committee meeting. I'm happy to do, but I just want to make sure we answer everyone's questions before I run. I continue
Yeah.
to run on the lip, Mike.
No, I think, why don't we see if people have questions? And then what I was thinking was that, I mean, the goal is you want to be able to post this so we can start going. So I think clarifying what is outstanding, like we should confirm contacts if there's anything else before we, sort
Yeah,
of say
and-
go. So,
And we put, I know Gabe, you have Gabe now, and I know you don't want to bother Gabe. Certainly we can add another contact under Gabe. We put the town contacts, we put Michael and Nate, right? And then we have Gabe on there just because, a main municipal official. We
Yeah.
can certainly add another name under Gabe if Nate or Michael, you want to be listed under her. And I just want to, Gabe is, we worked with Gabe in the town of Orange when she was there. She
Yes.
launched their program. She signed she is well versed in aggregation and is very good at talking about power supply.
Cool.
In
Let's
all,
keep Gabe-
she's made every decision individually until she left, and she's one of the more equipped town administrators to
I would say let's keep her then. I just wanted to make sure, I mean, given that she's got the
certainly
background.
check with her, but she's great.
And I wanted to mention one thing because I thought your question here was great. And I don't know if everyone got these or not. It's on page 14. It has to do with the 30 days.
Yeah.
1 second here. And I think it's the opt-out. And what I want to say is it's not, I don't think it's as clear as it could be. So the 30 days, and the reason they use 30 days, it's meter read to meter read, right? So we give everyone 30 days before the program ever starts. Believe it or not, it's really like 45. So should someone opt out in the, or not opt out and the enrollment not get rejected, happens all the time with the utilities, gives us a chance to correct that. But I just want you to know, if you decided to stay in the program or you decided to opt out of the program, there's no limitation other than I can only change you on a meter read. So if inception, right? And Nate decides that he wants to opt out of the program. So he opts out of the program. 2 months later, he wants to get in the program, simply calls up, goes online, and gets back in the program. Someone else stays in the program, says, I'm not happy with this. I don't like it for whatever reason. Simply, they can sign the card, go online, give us a call, get out of the program. They can get back in and opt in, opt out every 30 days without fear or penalty. It's all about choice aggregation. And I don't think that's clear here because I know you were saying, oh, I want to have a longer, which makes sense to me. Someone's away on vacation and so forth, so on. I just want you to know if they missed the window, they haven't missed anything other than initiation. Meaning it started, and if you don't do anything, you'll just be saving someone money out of the gate. We're not going to start the program above it.
And it sounds like this, like you were saying, this is it's probably the minimum. So if we wanted to extend it for operational purposes, because I think,
Yes.
I know when we did, the muni fiber, it was a similar kind of thing of all of a sudden you're changing the way you get a utility. We were, instead of, we weren't really getting much from Verizon, but nonetheless, you're paying a monthly bill. You're used to doing it. It's about finances. So giving people a sense of like, you know, you don't have to rush into it. You might miss, you might miss whatever. So I think we can, I guess one of the questions I'm thinking about is, because this is a defined process, so we have to post this. So we'll post it on the website and you guys post it or whatever. And then, public comment will come and go. What's the trigger? We're actually having that conversation to say, we got approved for 30 days. The department now knows that it's 30 days. What does Shutesbury want to do in terms of design? Like where in the
Right.
timeline would that happen?
So I think you're going to post it and we're going to submit it, and then we can safely say it's about a 120-day window to an order. So
Okay.
if you want to start thinking about products, but I think the thing, we can't request utility data for the town until we get an order. So
Right.
to Mark's point about indicative pricing, once we get that order, we'll immediately request the town's data. We'll get an RFP out there, and we'll pick a random start date. You get an order in November, we try for a March start. We ask the suppliers to price 6 terms all the way out to 36 months to 36 months in 6-month intervals, just to start for a handful of different products. Then that comes back and we get back together and you look at what the products cost for the town's load for a March start. And we look at that and have the conversations, and you have as much time to decide as you want. But if you say, hey, I don't want to start in March because I want to give people more lead time, then we ask them to price a July start. And what does that look like for the different terms? So it's hard to have an exact idea until you get the data and put it out there and see what they're going to price it at. But certainly any conversation can start within that 120-day
And
window.
the one thing, like you said, something that just clicked in my head. I just want you to know, nothing changes for the end user. So for you, I'm getting a bill from Verizon. I now have to pay the town. Believe it or not, there's a single line item on the bill. 80% of our customers don't know that they're in aggregations. They just see the stability and the savings, and they're not going to ask any questions. I just want you to know that if they have a low income discount, if they get solar, mass save, all of that stays in place. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, just to clarify for solar, I mean, we may want to put it out there saying like, hey, if you have solar, net metering is still existing, and it's also going to be paid at the basic service rate that National Grid provides, not what we're paying as an aggregate.
And you know what might be a good idea? And Nate, correct me if I'm wrong. I think were you trying to get some information out, or is this from when there were FAQs, right? We went back and forth on FAQs. Maybe it would help to post FAQs with the plan that have a little more specific information, like to what Isaac's saying about general questions that are more user friendly. We could certainly give you our list of FAQs. And I know, Nate, you had yours, you sent us something. Maybe that would be helpful, like for the average person.
That would be great, actually, because I think, on our website, because does the plan get posted on your website and we're just linking to it?
It's going to get posted on your website and we're going to link to it, because right now it's the town official website. And then when we go program official, we'll have the official website, but most folks will see it on your website.
Yeah, I mean, if we have it on our website, like we actually have multiple pages for ECAC. So we can put an FAQ that I think can get ahead of some of the things that we think might be, triggers. So for example, this is the official plan to the state. This is not the products. This says 30 days. We still have to decide as a town, do we want 30 days or 45 or whatever? And some people will read that and that should be helpful. But I think that's a great suggestion, Denise.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't, and think about it, you don't necessarily only have 30 days to decide after you get an order, right? You can launch whenever you want. It's just, it's at launch, the only thing unfortunately, you're going out, you want to launch your program. So if you want to launch your program, you're looking at the market that's there, unfortunately, because you're trying to get up and running, right? Going forward, you're going to have a contract that's existing, and then you're going to watch the market, and we're just going to take advantage of a low point in the market, right, for the next contract. But when you launch, the other thing we have to consider when we launch is just, okay, remember the basic service rate changes in February and August now, right? For every utility. So you want to launch, this is another consideration that we talk about when we get pricing. You want to launch when you also know what the basic service rate is for maybe 3 or 4 of the 6 months, so you can guarantee some savings against a known number, right? As opposed to, hey, I'm launching, basic service rate is only good for another 30 days. We don't know what the next one's going to be. Good luck to you. Like, we certainly don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So there's all these considerations. It just depends on when the DPU kicks the order out, and we can start those, we know the timing, and we can kind of better discuss what makes sense for Shutesbury.
So I'm thinking, tell me, you know, what you all think, but like you just laid out a couple of timeframes that are really helpful in terms of understanding this, you know, so signing it, waiting the 120 days or approximately, putting out an RFP, getting market rates, figuring out when the, you know, when the start date would be, et cetera. And like, if we had that mapped out, I don't know if Denise, if you could probably do it in your sleep, but it would give us the ability to sort of figure out at a subsequent ECAC meeting if there's operational discussions that we wanted to have in tandem so that we actually knew where we stood when you come back and say, okay, it got approved. What do you guys think? We'll have done that interim work, and sort of just knowing, and I'm sure somewhere in the next short term, we'll, you know, present to the select board. And speaking of which, the select board has to sign this thing, is that correct?
So
Not signed, but vote on it.
vote to approve, so
Okay,
that's it's not statutorily required. We would highly recommend it,
Correct.
right? You're posting it for
Yeah.
public review. You want it to go in front of the select board, know that the whole town is behind it. There was a vote to approve it before it went on to a state agency. You don't want to just haphazardly file with the
No.
DPU. We just
Yeah.
don't recommend that. It's not, you know, a good look at the local level.
And just so you know, if by chance the select board like asked to have us come out, we'll answer their questions. We'll come out to the select board meeting, you know, when it's going to get approved or even before. So just let us know, because once everyone gets the information, I mean this honestly, it's advantage aggregation. It just, once you realize the flexibility you have with aggregation and you have an open mind, it's advantage aggregation. I want to say one thing. There's one hurdle no one can get over. That is the automatic opt-in, if you will. You know, you're in if you don't do something, and that is going to anger certain customers. No way around it. Otherwise, you don't get the pricing.
Yeah, and I
is
also
that the,
think, go ahead.
was that, I'm not sure if I saw this, but so if you want to opt out, you have to call. Did I read that correctly?
No, so you're going to get a card. Everyone
Yeah.
gets a card before the program ever starts. All they got to do is sign their name, put it in a stamp address already envelope, and it's done. Or they could call,
Okay.
they could go online. It couldn't be easier. No one's trying to hold
Right.
you in the program. Some people will say to you, and it happens in every community, you probably know the three people that are going to say something right now, just because that's who they are, which is perfectly fine, don't get me wrong. But without it, that's the only way you get that tight pricing that everyone wants in aggregation. Meaning,
Right.
hey, everyone's in. And I can tell you, I expect 3 to 5% of the customers in Shrewsbury to opt out of the program. That's what I expect.
And the other good thing with the guidelines, and I think we might have mentioned this before, but now we can get a list of the folks that are on third-party supply from National Grid. So we have the
Oh.
ability to send and we don't have to file this postcard. We can just do it. We've been sending a 6x11 postcard to folks on third-party supply. Like, you've been identified by National Grid as being in either National Grid Green Up or on third-party supply. You can join the town's program. Here's how to do it. This is the product. This is the term. Just make sure you check you don't have a $150 early termination fee, right? With like a Constellation or a company that has one of those. So,
Okay.
but we can at least alert folks now. We didn't have that ability prior to the guidelines, the new guidelines. So it's worked out really well. We've seen a lot of opt-ins.
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
So I would say in terms of next steps, you know, I can let the select board know that we'd like them to vote on this. So, and I can probably just forward the version that you sent to me. And,
Yeah, I
And-
need to put an N on the end of notification on the
Yes.
letter and get that back over you. I apologize. I'm mortified.
so, you know, I think, you know, Nate and I can go. Gail, I'm guessing you probably come so we can notice it if you want, but I actually think, you know, they've been really receptive. You know, we've done our due diligence and explained things all along the way, so there's no surprises. And I think us getting this explanation, which is at least for me very helpful to understand, you know, how this fits. It's an easy explanation to them. So, I mean, what's today, January 14th? I think I'm not sure, you know, they meet every 2 weeks. I'm not sure what the
Right.
cycle is
So 2 weeks from tonight,
from tonight. So they met
they met at
They're meeting
5.
currently, right? So maybe we could probably get on the agenda for the end of the month, which would be easy, and then we could just let you know, and then we mutually do the posting stuff. So we'll post it and send you the link, etc. And then the clock starts going for the notice period, for the public comment period.
And normally, in case there's a comment, Mike, just procedurally, we'd hang the plan first and then allow, in case anyone had any comments and there was something that everyone decided, yes, we want to add that to the plan or what have you. Doesn't happen often anymore, just given this table plan. But if that did happen, we could do that before the select board voted on the final plan.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yes,
Anyone else
Gail?
having, yeah,
So you will tell us specifically what we need to put on our website, correct?
Posting language and everything.
Dictate what gets put on.
Yep.
yeah, there was actually a file, one of the files they sent was the website stuff. And,
So quick question on, posting the plan for public comment. If there are changes that go into the public plan based on public comment, does that restart the clock on how long we need to post it, or it's 30 days from when we post it, no matter what changes happen?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And
Great.
this is new, but the department that is the plan. It gets voted on, you're fine. Years ago, if it was substantive, they'd ask you to refile, but refile it on the website. That's not the case any longer, though.
Yeah, we don't even have to, we used to have to give all the comments and all the responses and they'd go through them and we don't have to do any of that anymore.
Correct.
So it's up, the town can handle it.
Cool.
Thanks.
Great. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you both for taking the time. And I
Thank you
mean,
for having us.
yeah,
And Mike, Nate, if you need us again, just call. That's what you hired us to do. We're happy to get back on.
cool,
So
great.
much.
I think we're good for now, but I'm sure we'll be talking to you sometime in the near future.
Definitely.
So have a
Have a good
wonderful
evening.
night. Okay.
Sorry to take
care.
up so much of the meeting.
Oh,
Appreciate
no,
it.
this was a worthwhile investment of time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's nice meeting everyone.
Yeah,
See ya.
I know.
Bye.
so we can, I think before we do other stuff, we got updates about EV chargers, anything about the decarbonization roadmap grant, public hearing. But before we do that, mostly wanted to welcome Bert, just for your interest. And this is an unusual meeting. Usually it's more informal and talking. We don't usually have this kind of level of detail, but it's a long road and it was the essential part. But Bert, do you want to just sort of say a little bit more about, what interested you, or, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to be concise. I'm curious about what different residents' motivations might be to kind of enroll in a type of program like this. For me, part of it was I wanted to put solar on my roof. My property's too treed. I wasn't gonna take my trees down, so I thought, oh, this is a potential opportunity to, put my money into solar in a collective way. Now, I don't know to what extent other people's motivations are like that, or if they're very bottom line price oriented. I'm not sure the pricing structure. I'm concerned about that, but more concerned about kind of going the green way. So I don't know if I fall in line with most other people who are pursuing this kind of avenue or not, but that was what it was for me.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I was mostly thinking about your interest in the committee, but I can answer that question, which is, with the too many trees, welcome to Shutesbury.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I just had someone come out to do our look for solar the second time around, and there's one spot on my property where they can do solar. I mean, it's just sort of crazy. And I think in terms of the options, the nice thing about TCA is that it really does run the gamut. So some people are going to come in and saying, I'm paying too much, I want to pay less. Other people want to do green. We know for a fact that it's not just your standard green, but we want to do, solar without cutting down trees. And so there's a whole range. But, in terms of the committee, are the things that you're particularly interested in that, you wanted to share?
Well, it's kind of similar to what I explained for, my personal interest in, yeah, I'm very interested in, keeping a minimal carbon footprint personally, and if I can participate in the town doing that as well. That's a lot of it for me, curiosity about that. They mentioned there are different options in plans as far as, nuclear is even an option, which I don't know how the town would respond to something like that. It's not something I would want to choose personally, as one of the sources, So, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Bert? Just,
Welcome to town.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, where were you before?
Connecticut, outside of Waterbury.
Okay.
Oh,
cool.
we're outside of Waterbury. I grew up in Naugatuck.
Oh, I was in Middlebury.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's great.
I was like, I always see the sign for Naugatuck. It sticks in my head for some reason.
It's funny.
It's funny. Well, we're going to
Oh,
keep
well.
going, but Bert, if you have questions, just chime in. And
Yeah.
part of the idea of sort of having someone come is just get a sense of like what this committee does. And I think the one thing that I'll just say is it's we're really focused on sort of the municipal part of it, like what we can do at the town level, whether it's through the town or moving the town. Like, so for the CCA, there's a town component, but obviously people are paying their own electric bills and making their own decisions in terms of how they would interface with this program. But it's rather than, because at the beginning we had a lot of conversations about how to help people sort of do lifestyle changes to reduce their carbon footprint. And while important, it's less what we, since we're a town committee, it's really sort of figuring out at the higher level, like how can we sort of, can we get solar on all the buildings? Can we do community choice aggregation? Can we set ourselves up for doing state grant programs, which is a full-time project anyway? It's because it's all complicated. But but let's shift. Isaac, you wrote up update on EV chargers. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna tell Bert that when Michael says municipal buildings, that's town hall, school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
The major metropolis of Shutesbury.
And I should throw in just quickly, I have a fully electric car, so I have a level 2 charger at my home. So,
Cool.
Nice. Okay, I forwarded along the notes that I had from the conversation with Nick Valori from the East Coast Renewable, and I can review kind of conversations with town officials.
Yeah.
So let me just share my screen. All right, so the conversation was long and like ranging. So when I wanted to talk to him about like level 2, level 3 charging stations, like he wanted to go into like the weeds on what that means, and I'm happy to do that with you all now, or I can kind of just you guys can review this. But did you like how do we feel? Do you want like to go through this kind of information here?
What do you guys think? I mean,
This is really like decision, like this is like there are two different types of chargers. All this information will come into play when we decide what kind of product we want to pursue. In terms of what average charge time means, what it means, like, kind of definitional stuff. Why are these numbers? How are they based? Like, everything is based on Tesla, which is a larger battery, et cetera, et cetera. But so right now there are two incentives left in National Grid. Gail, did you have a question?
Okay.
Okay. There are two basic, and each level charger lives with a different type of incentive, right? So there are two different. There's a public access and there's a fleet option, right? So the fleet option is municipal vehicles, right? So the fire department, the DPW, police station. East Coast Renewables will install for free the charging ports for the fleet. However, they won't manage it because there's no money in it for them. The town pays for the electricity that goes into these vehicles, and these are all level 3 chargers, right? These are faster charging chargers. And then we're also on the hook for the maintenance, which for level 3 chargers, like I said before, is $600 per port, which is $1,200 per charging station. So that's one way to go. And then the public is level 2 only, but I guess there's like a supercharger option, which is just a regular level 2, but they have this thing on it called a switch gear, which if you just have one car on a 2-port level 2 charger, then it can divert all the electricity to the one car and charge a percentage faster. But it's not a different, it's no different from every level 2, except for the fact that they put in this little switch gear, which allows this to happen, and they'll post signage of like the difference. The other thing is, like we discussed before, and a lot of this is disambiguation, because conversations that I had previously weren't clear on what's a level 2 versus a level 3 incentive, right? Level 3 incentives don't have an EV only parking requirement. The level 2 does. A level 2 also, to further clarification, has those spots have to be ADA compliant, but they do not have to be reserved for handicap parking. So these are like important distinctions. In terms of conversations with municipalities, right? So Chief Zerwanka of the fire department is not against it. You know, he's a little concerned about it, but if there was one at the station, he's not, not. And then Chief Burgess, I forwarded along because it was an email response. She's pro electric vehicle, has her own, but is against it for the department, the police department, for reasons she's articulated elsewhere that, I don't know. I assume probably in, a committee meeting, something like that. And I haven't heard back from DPW. Conversation with the principal, they're interested, but had questions that I've been trying to answer. But yes, they are interested, not sure of the numbers that they would be supporting. But the questions from the principal are like, are we going to have people off hours in the parking lot? Who's paying for the electricity? And that the ultimate answer would be, this would be a public service. This would be public access, so it would be paid for by the consumer. And again, if East Coast Renewable does own the charging ports, they will do all maintenance. They will do like all of everything necessary. They will assume all cost, and they'll take in all of the revenues from the electrical like charges, but then we'll reconcile at the end of the fiscal year, and we would get half of whatever was there. And now the good thing that I clarified was, if there was problems with a port, right, and nobody was there, if there was a negative balance, right, on that, we would not be liable for that. That's all on East Coast Renewable. So so that's a good thing to know. All right, let's see. He got like, because I mentioned like what our plan was, right, to like carbon neutrality, eventually like getting, like solar on our municipal buildings. And he said that they could do solar as well, but it's all revenue generation, right? They can only do it if there's money in it for them. And there's like 3 ways they can do it, right? They could be an installer if they wanted, like if we wanted them to install it, just like it would be like, Greenfield Solar or whatever solar company, and we would pay them for it, and all the energy would be free. Or there was something, it was, let's see, what do you call it? Community solar, which is kind of like a CCA, where you negotiate for a specific percentage off of the price of kilowatt hours. And that doesn't fluctuate, right? It's not like locking in at a specific rate. It's like, okay, we get energy from basic service at a discounted rate, like 3%, right? And whether it's 3% of 15 cents an hour or a kilowatt hour, or 33 cents per kilowatt hour, that doesn't fluctuate. It's just the percentage is granted. And then they could also install the solar for free, and we would enter a purchasing agreement with them for 20 cents a kilowatt hour. So anyway, that kind of came in on the like kind of unsolicited, but I capture that information. Yeah, and so if we decided to move forward, we could apply for both grants, right? So we could apply for the fleet as well as public, right? So we can get a public in the library, we could get a public behind the town hall, and get one, at the school. And Nick is very forthcoming of like, yes, I understand the more business I do, the more opportunity for profit, right? So that's the motivator, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. However, he was saying, in your proposal for the grant, you can put in for like, let's say we want 3 solar chargers or 3 EV chargers at town hall, which would be 6 ports. When we get approved, we can say, no, we only want 1 or 2, but like to get in the queue is important. and to be in the approval process. And that can change before the actual install and all that stuff. Pursuant to the question about where's the grant money coming from, these are not federal dollars. These are money with National Grid. And I asked him about like, all right, well, how much is left in the pot? How long is it going to last? And as an example, he gave, there was a public access level 3 incentive released in July of last year, $25 million, which comes out to 500 to 600 locations. National Grid assumed it would last 5 to 6 years, but it was filled up within a year. So giving that as a, you know, some sort of context, they're saying there's still a ton of money for level 2, which who knows when it's going to run out. And back to the question of if we're in queue, are we guaranteed? No. It's just, do we get it processed before the money runs out is kind of the answer. So, and then it was the, does the town own it versus does East Coast Renewable own it? And really it's about liability, right? Like for, if something goes wrong with it, we would call East Coast Renewable, but they would service it, but we would pay for the service. Whereas, if they owned it and we would get 50% of the proceeds at the end of, the reconciliation. That's kind of what I like, to make it as easy as possible for the town. Like, I don't think this is like we're not looking for profit on this. We're looking for accessibility, right? And he's talking about forward thinking. So, that's why he's saying like, well, in 2028, they won't be making, fossil fuel cars. So you want to be prepared while it's free to have access to these actual things. The library is a challenge, right? Because Marianne, like there's limited parking. They have like conduit laid for 2 EV charging ports, but they're not going to go into it at a level 2 because they can't guarantee that that's, they can't guarantee those 2 spots. It's like, 20% of their parking would be, dedicated to EVs, and, that just won't be a possibility for them at this moment. And what she clarified with me, which I didn't realize, because there's this question of, okay, with a public charging port, according to the verbiage of the grant, it needs to be EV only, and who monitors that? She was saying that in the grant that she was looking at, which I would assume is the same grant, is the library would be on the hook. Like any institution that it is outside of, like if they're at the school is on the hook for being like, all right, you got to move that car, whatever. How that happens, I don't know. What teeth exists is not documented anywhere. In asking Nick how this worked, he would be like, well, if National Grid car drove by, if they were like checking checking the stations and noticed fossil fuel cars, there would be some, they would reach out, I would assume, to the institution, right, to the library, to the town hall, whatever. But again, like what, you can't apply for the grant in good faith knowing that you won't be able to accommodate this this restriction. However, how that restriction is going to be enforced, like there's zero information on enforcement from National Grid. So I don't know how to get additional information from that, who to call, who to talk to. And even if I found the right person to talk to, I'm sure that they're not going to, there doesn't seem to be a plan in place, because if there was, it would be delineated, right? Like first offense, you get a fine like that you have to pay, something like there's nothing. So I have zero idea about that. So, and then the last, I haven't heard from the DPW. I emailed Dave and didn't hear back at the general DPW email address. So
Isaac, thank you. That was really thoughtful and a lot of work. So
Oh, yeah.
massively appreciate that.
very welcome. No, it seems like a great opportunity. And yeah, again, like the cold calls, like they're business people, right? Like, but they're also trying to get these products out here. It's not like a fly-by-night operation where, we're going to be left holding the bag and they run out of town with, all the grant money. This is something that, I was pleasantly surprised in my conversation. So
Does anyone have any questions? Gil?
In talking with I gather you're talking with the principal at the school.
Yes.
Did she sound as if, I mean, there's no way you can make it not 24/7. Would that turn
I think
off
her
things?
concern was, I think the primary question was who pays for it, with the assumed answer of if it was free, then it's like, oh, well, people will be here all night, like in the parking lot, like there's some sort of liability for that. We didn't hash that out in further details, but I can pull up the questions
Well,
that I
I can,
had with,
I mean, just having been on the school committee, the normal concerns are safety for kids. And
Yeah.
so you want to minimize people that you don't know in proximity to the school. So that's, I think, what
Yeah.
they're always thinking about, like, whether it's talking about renting the space or, having outside groups come in, like it's just an extension of that.
Yeah. So her questions were, who pays for the electricity? Who's responsible for maintaining? Does this open the school lot to overnight cars?
Yeah.
My response was, where is that again? It would be user via credit card, right? Just charged by a set kilowatt hour price. It would be the third party energy, East Coast Renewables would do all the maintenance. Like it's not on the town, it's not on if we do them owning it. And then well, it's likely if you own an EV like Bert, like he's not going to rely solely on a third party to like this is just I see this as teachers that have an EV that are parking in the lot all day, charging it up there.
Yeah.
And that would be like a level 2, so it would take a little bit longer to get that charge. So yeah, I mean, she seems open to it. Like there's no discussion on number of spots that they would want to leave open. And again, like we'd heard from previous, other municipalities, like that they are going to push for more rather than fewer because that increases their profitability, right? But also like, I mean, if you think about it, if you think it through, yes, like things are trending towards EV, right? Like we want an entire town full of electric vehicles if possible, if, the community can support that, and et cetera. So having the infrastructure in place would be great. Now, there was a conversation like when I talked about the fleet, like he's like, well, if you've got 12 cruisers and 2 of them are trying to charge it, I'm like, we have 3 police officers and we have 2 police cars. We have 2 cruisers. I don't see a fleet of 12 necessitating 5 5 chargers with like 10 ports. So like he understood the context of it. He didn't really understand the size of the town. So
here's the question, just I think to move us to the next step. Like, if I remember correctly, the select board's the one who actually sits the
correct. They had to
grant.
sign off on it. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
would probably submit a recommendation for moving forward. In that recommendation, I think we would probably select the sites, whether it's public or fleet, and how many charging stations per location. Oh, and then the other thing is for the fleet, the level 3 are, it's what is it? The new wire that's been put up through
Three-phase?
town. 3-phase power, yeah, 3-phase energy. So I had that question about like, are there going to be a new metering situation, or will they drop a line? And that's all in the utility, but it's good information to have. He's saying, 90% of the deals for brand new level 3 chargers, which would be the fleet, they drop a new line and a brand new meter. So, and then generally level 2 pull from an existing meter. So like if it's at the school, it'll be on the school's meter. So I guess really I wonder how that would work out, right? Because, go ahead, Gail.
Well, I was just going to say that what we've heard from both the police and the fire is that the equipment that they need and the specifications of the equipment are not compatible with EV.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to wonder why we would I could see having public.
Yeah.
But not fleet.
Well, so haven't heard back from DPW. I don't know if they have any apparatus that would you know, like, I mean, there could be like a pickup truck, right? Or something like a, you know, but like you're not gonna have an excavator or a backhoe that's electric, right? You're not gonna have an electric fire truck. Now, this is short-term thinking, right? This is 2025 thinking right now. But, you know, with you know, like I kind of like I would imagine this to be like the Model T days, right? I can never imagine a world where everybody drives an automobile. It's only meant for the wealthy, right? But now, you know, as like if we enter a world where fossil fuel cars are no longer produced, then all automobiles will be electric, right? And the reliability factor will have to be solved, right? All that kind of stuff. So we might be in a position where a fleet would make sense in a future time. Now, if
Right.
they install it, you know, we don't have to
but-
use it. Or like public, right? So if we go the public route, we can do it at the, you know, behind the town hall. You know, if it becomes, you know, then we just put up a sign. It's like, well, you know, well, you know, the police cruisers are on it, you know, so I don't know how that works out in 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now. Like it's hard to have that long view of things. But yes, as things stand right now, there, you know, the police is adamantly against, you know, the police cruisers as electric vehicles. I think the only possible candidate at this time would be the fire chief's personal vehicle, right, to respond to scenes with. Now, I don't see that being replaced within the next 10 years. So, you know, this is just a fairly recent, like I think this car will last for a while. I don't know if the rescue could be an electric vehicle. And again, like haven't heard from the DPW to
That's not a
even
fleet vehicle.
pursue a fleet.
It's a
And
person.
town hall, I mean, town hall, there are other personnel, so, you know.
Yeah,
there's
of course,
town-
yeah.
Yeah,
But again,
And
like
usually-
the model of the fleet versus the model of the public access is who's paying for the solar or who's paying for the electricity, right? With the fleet, it's restricted to municipal vehicles and all the charges go to the town, which is why there's no profit margin for, you know, East Coast Renewable to gather from that. So then we would be on the hook for, you know, the $1,200 a month per charging unit maintenance.
So what I would suggest, just in the interest of time, since Colonial sort of blew out our meeting time, is if we think about next meeting, trying to come up with a recommendation.
Yep.
So now that we've had, you know, Isaac's information and explanation, if we ruminate on it, and the goal would be to sort of figure out, can we make a recommendation to the select board, come to an agreement based on what we know? And use that time, because then, you know, like, we won't wait too long
Mhm.
to blow the opportunity,
Yeah.
but it'll give us a chance to do it, and we can probably get in before things speed up for town meeting.
Yeah.
But does that sound right for everybody?
yeah.
Can I ask a quick question
Yeah, please.
about the school charging? Did you say that would be free charging
No.
or?
No, that would be public. So that would the
Public, okay.
public charging would be consumer based, right? So you would put in your credit card,
Yeah.
you know, and charge per kilowatt hour. And again, like they set the rates, but they consult with us on the rates, and they want a competitive rate because they want people charging there because, you know, that's how they make their revenue, right? So if they charge 50 cents a kilowatt hour, nobody's going to do it. But if it was, you know, 20 cents or 15 cents, like a reasonable rate, you know, they're not looking to gouge. They're really looking to find the sweet spot where they can allow, like, have incentivize people to charge and pull in the revenue.
So I have one just random thought, and then we can move on. But I'm also, as we think about this, we might want to think about the current library parking lot, because at least for the short term, it's across from town hall, and it's not going to, I don't know if there's any use.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
but-
know what the use of the library, the current library will be after the new library is completed. So that is a possibility. I can talk with Marianne about that. I'm sure she has some insider knowledge about what the plans are for that building after a new library and whether that makes sense.
It'd be the official
But I mean,
building
the
for
viable,
ECAT.
the viable options seem to be town hall, possibly the old library or the current library and the school,
Yeah.
and then just working with the different constituencies to see how many would be acceptable, where they would be. Like I'm assuming like in the school parking lot, probably the back right corner, even though it's a little bit farther, like, I don't know how many you want, like you want people to be able to access that don't necessarily have an electric vehicle. So I don't know, that's all like down the line. Right now, it's about recommending and moving forward.
Cool. Great. Well, Isaac, thank you again. This is
You're
like
welcome.
really great work.
Thanks.
So I don't know, moving on. Nate, did you hear anything about the decarbonization grant?
Not yet.
I
I
thought we
did
would
learn
first.
that the next window is opens in like March 1st or something like that. So if we
Okay.
get rejected,
Yeah.
we can hit the next window.
Presumably they have to tell us in time so we can turn it around.
So
Right.
you said March 1st is the next window, so we would definitely hear before then, right?
Yeah.
Presumably, Isaac, presumably.
Presumably, yeah. Yeah, no, you didn't get in, but you also missed the window for reapplication.
Exactly, exactly.
Sorry, Charlie.
God. So the only other thing that's on here besides minutes is we're going to talk about a plan for a public hearing and forum for the climate leaders thing, which I think we can push off to next meeting. Just, if we have to do a public hearing before town meeting. So right now it sounds like town meeting is somewhere between the end of April and somewhere in June. So if we discuss it in March and do a hearing and a public forum in March, that's probably sufficient because the hearing is more educational. I mean, the forum is educational, the hearing is required statutorily. So I, does, just generally speaking, does March feel right? And if March feels right, we can talk about it. And then, I mean, knowing what I've done before, it seems like the short thing is come up with a date, do a town announce, put it on the website, and get some, and then work on materials. But between February and March, we can work on the materials and the content, the content of the town announce. So if that sounds like a general plan, we can just sort of talk about specifics next time.
Timeline on for next time.
Yeah, does that work?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And you were going to ask the fellow from Leverett to come talk about the town.
Oh,
grant?
yeah, right. Richard Nordhorst. Thank you for that. I forgot to. So did everyone follow that?
No.
So I'm trying to remember.
It's in the
What?
minutes.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I was when he talked about it, but I think it's an interesting thing because they're trying to do an electrical MLP. The difference that he said is that that's sort of ridiculous. They don't have to cross the road. So the road that goes through Leverett, the school, the public safety folks, and the library are all on the same side of the street. And if you remember, like a year and a half ago, we were talking about like the utility. If you have to cross Leverett Road in Shutesbury, like the utility has to give you permission. So, which they never will do. So I'm just sort of piecing things together. I haven't heard it out of his mouth, but he did say the thing you should know is that we're all basically on one giant parcel on one side of the road. And even though we're teeny, we're a little bit more spread out. I mean, granted, town hall, I guess town hall, the library, and the fire station are all on the same side of the road. So when the library moves, we'll be in the same boat. But if we maybe I'll invite him in April. Is that too far out or March? What do you?
Yeah, because there's nothing pressing about that.
No.
And
Okay.
his name again, Richard.
It's
It's
not
in the,
horse.
it's in the minutes.
Okay,
I'll send it to
Yeah.
you.
thanks.
Yeah. Cool. So the last thing we got to do is just approve the minutes. And did everyone get a chance to see what got sent out?
Had one edit suggested. I made the change and we're good to go.
Cool. Okay. So I want to move to approve the minutes of, I forget the date.
12/17.
12/17.
I would
You know
like
what?
to move to approve the minutes from our meeting in 12/17.
Cool.
I'll second that.
Cool. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Nate, how do you vote?
Aye.
Yeah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Isaac, how do you vote?
Aye.
and I am an aye, so the minutes are approved. So before we adjourn, I, what I would suggest, Bert, have we not scared you away yet?
You haven't.
Okay. That's good. What I would maybe suggest, just because our usual routine of our meetings really got blown out with the Colonial. I mean, if you're, since you're not scared away, I'll just, let you know, and well, we're gonna set a meeting date now, so you'll know what it is. And then just come next month, and what we've done in the past is you should just participate in the conversation, or you just don't get to vote on the minutes. But other than that, and then if that all feels right, whoops, we can just sort of, move a recommendation to the select board. The way it works is since we're all appointed, so if you felt like you wanted to, continue on, what we would basically do is vote to recommend you to the select board, then the select board appoints you. So it's usually, I don't know, somewhere between a month or 6 weeks, depending on getting on the select board dance card. But I think that would probably be the best way to go for now, if that makes sense to everybody. Cool. So let us see what our next meeting date situation is. So that would be February.
11?
Let's see. Yeah.
February 11th. All right, so that gets into the
Oh yeah, your
6:30.
class thing, right?
Yeah.
So remind us what the limitations are again. You're taking the class.
So I have a
until when?
class that goes from 4 to 6:30. It could get out a little bit earlier, but like I think by 6:30 I should be able to be on a meeting, because I'll bring my laptop even if it's in the classroom. I'll find a quiet place after everybody leaves to drop in.
Cool.
And you said
And-
February 11th, is that right?
Yeah. And
February
Nate,
11th.
in terms of hockey, that's going to work for you?
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I can, I'm flexible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Gail,
Fine.
Bert, you guys, if we do 6:30?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so February 11th at 6:30 will be our next meeting. And we'll assume we'll do our usual hour and a half.
February.
And we'll pick up the discussion about the hearing. We'll talk about recommendations in terms of the EV chargers. And I think the other thing is in terms of, I guess just before we adjourn, circling back to the CCA thing. So Nate, it sounded like Denise had to do some small stuff and then,
Small.
yeah, so she could send that to you.
Yep.
And then you and I I'll reach out to the select board to see about getting on there, presumably the January 20th agenda. So can you make it January 28th if I pitch that?
Yes.
And let's see if I can
Yeah.
do that. January 28th. Cool, I can do that too. So we'll shoot for that, and then if it gets approved, then we can sort of do a quick turnaround. And Gail, Nate can get you the information on the website, so we'll have it. I mean, it's already in one of the files, but I think it's pretty simple. It shouldn't be a problem for us to do that.
But I can't put that up until it's been approved by the select board, correct?
Correct, right.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Gabe is going to be a real asset.
Yeah, that was,
For real.
as
He'll
soon
be
as
an
I heard
advocate right
that,
then and there.
yeah,
Yay.
he can do the pitch to the select board for us while we're there. So, okay, everyone cool? Anything we left out? Okay, anyone want to move to adjourn?
I would like to move to
Go for it.
adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Okay, any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none. Nate, how do you vote?
Aye.
Gail,
Flashing your eye.
Isaac?
Yes, hi.
And I am an aye. So we are adjourned. Bert, thanks for joining us. We look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
you next month.
Come back.
And, have a good night, everybody.
Bon
Take
appetit.
care,
Good
everybody.
night. Thank you. Bye.